Welcome to Love Punch, where I'm challenging leaders, entrepreneurs, and creatives to make a lasting impact. I'm your host, Ruby Fremont, and I'm here as a catalyst for you, the new generation of thought leaders. Join me each week as I dive into raw conversations with real impact makers. Hey everyone, we are back, and we are back with Dr. Will Moreland. We connected at this event in Vegas, and I absolutely loved what he had to share on stage that night. So let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Will. Dr. Will inspires individuals to impact their environments and influence change. He's the author of over 40 books, 15 of which have reached bestseller. As an internationally known keynote speaker and business authority, Dr. Will has received numerous awards. In 2014, he was named a top thought leader. In 2015, Diversity and Inclusion Leader of the Year. In 2016, Community Business Leader. And in 2017, NAACP Business Leader of the Year. He has been named a top leader to follow on Twitter and has appeared on many national and local TV broadcasts, as well as being featured in Forbes, Inc., Black Enterprise, and other magazines. Dr. Will's message is simple: impact, inspire, influence. He believes that this is what each of us should strive to do in our lives, communities, careers, and businesses. So without further ado, welcome to Love Punch, Dr. Will.
Thank you so much, Ruby. I'm excited about being here, excited about sharing with your community. Let's get it on.
Yeah, let's get it on. So you were sharing just before we hit record, one of the things, I guess it seems like a staple of what you teach, and it's the idea of finding your core, C.O.R.E. Why is this so important? And what is it?
So finding your core is something that I came up with after years and years of trying to figure out why I'm on this planet. Right. And it really came into a head, Ruby, about 7 years ago at the age of 35 for me. Mm-hmm. I looked up and I really didn't know who I was. Like, I knew who everybody said I was. I was Dr. Will. I was this, I was that. But I really didn't know who I was. I didn't know what food I liked. I didn't know where I liked to vacation. I didn't know what I like to do in what we call our free time, because for so long people told me, just being transparent, no, you don't surf because you're a black guy, and black people don't, don't ski, or you don't eat, escargot. That's not what we do. So at 35, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, who is this guy? Mm-hmm. And so for me, I said, you know what, Will? You need to get to your core. Who are you at the core of who Will is? If they stripped everything away, what would be the 4 or 5 things that you would want to bring back into your life, that if you had these 5 things for the rest of your life, you would be content? I'll tell you, Ruby, for me, it boiled down to the ability to hang out with my family and friends, mm-hmm. the ability to provide for my friends. I love to listen to all types of music. So I like to go to concerts. I like the ability to go and shop whenever I want to shop. But I found out it wasn't many things that I needed to keep me happy. Right. I got to my core. But the journey of that was me exploring all types of things, eating all types of food, going skiing, going camping, going to a NASCAR event, going to every sporting event, trying to find what really made me feel alive. And so once I discovered that, that really became my heart's passion to help people get to their core.
It's really interesting because as you were saying that, I visualized like you breaking free from, from a box that you felt like you were put in, which for a lot of people, especially our listeners, feel that too. We're raised to believe certain things. Society teaches us certain things, and society loves putting us in boxes. They love to tell us what we like and what we don't like, and what we're here to do and what we're here to say and how we're here to speak. So I love that you had that epiphany, because I think many of us do at some point in our lives, but so many of us don't. And so I want this episode to kind of be a wake-up call for those who are struggling with that feeling of like, wow, I really don't know who I am. And I know what that's like. I remember looking in the mirror in 2012 and not recognizing who I was. I recognized the face. I didn't recognize the inside. So what does C.O.R.E stand for?
So C.O.R.E is an acronym. I'm an old Army guy, so I love to use acronyms. So C.O.R.E stands for clarity, opportunities, relationships, and experiences. And so once you get to a place of clarity, when you know who you are, what you want to do in this life, who you want to do it with, now you want to start finding opportunities to do that. You know, you doing this podcast, you said, you know what? I just want to hang out with badass people. So I'm going to create the opportunity, right? I'm going to create the opportunity to hang out with badass people. How can I do that? Well, I'll just have conversations with them. Call them up and say, hey, you want to rap for 30, 40 minutes? And boom, you created an opportunity based off your clarity. You said, you know what? I want to learn. I want to engage. I want to interact with these types of individuals for the rest of my life. I don't know what that's going to look like. Is it going to be a podcast? Is it going to be a live event? But I'm going to look for opportunities to do that.
So that's really interesting to me because I feel like clarity has become, so many people want clarity nowadays. And yet there's almost like this drive to have the crystal clarity. Like I need to have my exact vision clarified before I can take action. Whereas, I'm of the belief that through action, we create clarity. So all we need is just like a little bit of clarity, not the full spectrum. So I'm wondering where you stand on that. Like how much clarity do we need in order to create the opportunities? And do we get more clarity as we create the opportunities?
I think the only clarity you need is I'm going to live the life that brings me joy. I'm going to live the life that brings me happiness. And so to your point, no, you're never going to, you've been in business long enough to know that it never happens the way you wrote it down on that sheet of paper.
Hell no.
It never happens like that, right? So once you get a little wise in this game, yes, we use goals as a guideline. Yes, we use mission and vision as a guideline, but I didn't write on my goal sheet, man, I want to meet Ruby, because I didn't know you existed, right?
Right.
You didn't know I existed. And so, no, it's not that it's this framework that puts you into a prison. It really is a framework that frees you. So for me, I live by this simple mantra. I want to do good and have fun. Do good and have fun. Right. So if you came to me and you said, hey, Will, I got this podcast. Would you be a guest on it? I'm going to evaluate it by, man, do I think I can do good? Do I think I can serve her audience? And am I going to have fun with Ruby? I know who you are. I follow you. So I'm like, man, I'm going to have a ball with Ruby. So I can do good and have fun. That's the criteria for everything I do right now.
Right. So it almost feels like it's more for the way that you're sharing it, clarity. It's like, what is it that you really want?
It's permission to live your best life.
Yeah.
It's permission to live your best life.
Got it. So it's like if you really ultimately just want to have fun, then create opportunities that give you that. If you really ultimately want to feel fulfilled, then create opportunities that offer you that. That's the clarity you're speaking of.
So I'll give you a prime example. So I host masterminds where I bring thought leaders and entrepreneurs together, and we just work on our businesses and we do these frameworks. And I said, okay, I don't want to do the whole hotel thing where you're in a hotel for 2 or 3 days or something like that, and you're just pounding the paint, right? I said, I want to have fun doing this. And so we go to places like Mexico, and we go to places like St. Martin, and we go to La Jolla down in San Diego. We have this thing called Business on the Beach, and I want to do good and have fun. And so I created this opportunity for me to hang around some cool people, work on my business, but do it in cool places. And so we'll do some work in the morning, but then we'll get on the ATVs and be riding on the beach, and we'll do surfing and all this type of stuff. And that was what I was clear about. I wanted to do good and have fun. And that means when you get to the place of clarity, clarity is really scary because it's going to take you out of your comfort zone of what you've usually been doing. And that's why a lot of people are afraid of even addressing their life. They don't even want to do an assessment of their life because they're going to come back with the data that says, I hate waking up going to this job every day. They're going to wake up and say, I don't like the person that I've probably become. And now that you know this, for the rest of your life, it will haunt you if you don't do something about it.
Right. You know, it's that awareness that once you have it, you can't unsee it. You know, like once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And then it's up to you to either do something about it or sit and wallow in it and complain for the rest of your life.
And that's exactly it. Like once you see it, and once I take my clients through this whole thing about clarity, and we have this whole thing we go through, once they start seeing it, it's like a light, an examination light. And here are the x-rays. This is what's going on underneath all those layers, right? This is the true story. Like, it's like when you go to the doctor and you're like, I don't know where that pain is coming from. And they sit you down and they take an x-ray.
Yes.
And they give you that film. That's what clarity is. Clarity is that film that says, now you don't have to do anything. You don't have to have the surgery. You can keep on living, and maybe, you'll have pain every once in a while, but you won't be able to do this. You won't have this type of mobility, but you'll forever have the x-rays. And whether you do something with it or not, that's with you, but you got the x-rays and you can never unsee it.
Wow, that is a perfect analogy. A perfect analogy. So we have clarity, and then we have opportunity, and then relationships is next. So talk to us about that.
So then you figure out, how do you want to live life and who do you want to do it with? Like, a lot of people say, my family is the most important part of my life. But if you really examine their life, they never have time for their family. They never do anything with their family. And, beyond the mundane Saturday, Sunday stuff, we washing clothes and we're watching Netflix, but they're not really making meaningful connections. And so who do you want to do life with? What type of people do you want to do life with? And for me, relationships are key. I've read over 600 books about successful people. And one of the things for me, Ruby, is when I would read it, when they would talk to their family or when they would talk to their friends, it would usually say something like, we know daddy loved us, but he was never here. Right. We know mom loved us, but she was always climbing the corporate ladder. I didn't want that for me. I know for each of us, when we get to the end of our life, we're going to have this mental picture book, this photo album. And you get to determine what you want those pictures to be. Do you want it to be you going from one hotel to another hotel, from one gig to another gig, to, just doing business stuff? Or do you want it to be filled with your friends and your family? And so for me, relationships really at the center of C.O.R.E become so important, because you really get to say, you know what, these are the people I want to play with. These are the people I want in my sandbox. And it extends from your family to your friends to the type of clients that you have. I only want to work with people. You said it in your intro about who you want to work with, right? I only want to work with people that want to do amazing stuff. Like, if you just want to do the average 9 to 5, that's fine for you, but that's not fine for me. Right. So I want to be able to call a Ruby, and I know Ruby's always going to be having something exciting. Like, I haven't used the word boring in probably 15, how people say, oh, I'm just bored. Right. I haven't used the word boring in my vocabulary to say anything that I'm doing in years. I never feel bored. I never put myself in environments where, wow, this is boring. Like, whew, And so for me, relationships, you look at it and you say, at the core, who are the most important people in your life? Who do you really want to play this game of life with? And then be intentional about having a lifestyle with these people.
And I'm really, really happy that you mentioned clients in that. Something that happened with my business just a year ago is I really shifted gears in regards to refining who I work with. And, as a trained life coach, I can work with anyone, just like a doctor can see any patient. But I really want to choose to specialize and work only with the people who I'm deeply, wildly passionate about, so that I can show up at my best self, as my most powerful self for them. and be highly engaged throughout our coaching relationship. So I think that's really important, because a lot of people talk about relationships and who you surround yourself with, and, you know, your tribe, your mentors, your masterminds. We don't talk enough about, well, what about the people you're serving? What about the people that you're calling in? Because that's also important too. You want to have joy and feel fulfilled with the people that you are serving and speaking to and selling to and enrolling and all of that. Like you want all of your relationships in life to feel good.
Man, I totally agree. And I help my clients who are life coaches and work with people. That's one of the things I really harness on and say, listen, when you wake up in the morning, you should be excited when you look at your logbook and say, oh, I'm coaching with Ruby today. I know she has this great project. I know that I've been thinking about this project. I got an idea that's going to help her scale it to the next level. If you're waking up and you're saying, oh man, so yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a problem.
Right. And I know when I talk to Ruby, Ruby's going to have an excuse about why she didn't do what we talked about the last time. And the dog ate the cat and the cat ate the turtle and ran over the rug. And, you know, for me, I did the same thing a couple of years. I said, you know what? It's not worth it. Like, no matter of money, it's worth you pulling my energy down. So if I have to work before I even get on the phone with you, like, Brian's going to be complaining about his wife, or Suzanne's going to be complaining about her. Like, the people I get on the phone with, like, every week, I'm excited about their projects. I'm excited. They're excited about their projects. They're waiting to hear me. They can't wait to get on the phone with me to see what ideas I have to help them scale their companies. And that's the type of energy. Like, I don't get off the phone and then have to go talk to my wife and say, oh my God, Ruby just dragged me down today. It's a part of your whole life, right? When you have that type of situation, it impacts your whole life. And so, yeah, relationships, even your clients, and those are the people you're probably investing a lot of time with. So you want to make sure that you're clear. And one of the things that I tell my clients all the time, you just think about, it's a choice. Mm-hmm. Do you want to be the general practitioner that is, you know, working with colds and sniffles and cuts, or do you want to be the heart surgeon? Do you want to specialize in something? And neither one of them is wrong. We need both of them, but you have to be clear on what space you want to play in. And for me, I wanted to be a heart specialist. So I have a particular client base, don't see as many people, but the people that I see, we're doing meaningful work. You save somebody's life, you give them a heart transplant, you help their business, that's meaningful work.
Mm-hmm. And the only way for you to have even landed on that realization is for you to have done this work around your core, which is powerful. So what is E? What is E in core?
Is experiences. Mm-hmm. What experiences do you want in life? Do you want to go vacation in Rome? Do you want to go to Dubai? Do you want to go to Bora Bora? Do you want to go to Music Coast? What experiences do you want in life? How are you going to live this place that we live, Ruby, is freaking amazing. I've had the opportunity to go to over 45 different countries, and I'm telling you, this world is amazing. The people are amazing. The sites are amazing. There's so much you can do. So you need to ask yourself, how do I want to experience life? It saddens me so much when I talk to people and I say, what did you do this weekend? Oh, nothing, not too much, just hung around the house, just watched Netflix. And I'm like, oh my God, there's a whole big world going on around here. So you got to get clear, like, how are you going to live this life? We get 80, 70, maybe 90 years. How are you going to play it out? What experiences? Once again, to the photo album, what type of pictures do you want to be in that photo album? You know, I just had the opportunity to come back from Mexico, took the family, and we were just sitting. I just came off a long trip, a 7-day trip. I went to like 10 different cities in like a five-day period. And I got home, and matter of fact, on the way home, I text my wife and I said, what do you got going on for the next couple of days? What do the kids got going on for the next couple of days? She said, nothing's on the schedule. I said, okay, I'm landing and we're headed off to Mexico. Because those are the types of experiences that I want, and we had a ball. And so you got to ask yourself, when it gets to your core, what are the things that you like doing? Who do you like doing it with? And then with your friends, your family, and your clients, what type of experiences do you want? Going back to working with my clients and the type of masterminds that we do, I want that type of experience with them. And so it's not just all business, but we build relationship. And so that's the E in C.O.R.E.
I want to bring this back to business because I think it's super important. There are a lot of business strategists out there teaching cookie cutter formulas on how to build your business and how to create success. And so many new entrepreneurs dive into this thinking there's only that one way. And the way in which I built my business was I followed the feel goods. I followed what felt good for me. And my initially business strategists that I'd work with were like, oh, this isn't going to work. Like, you have to start with your email list. You have to start with this. But I refused to because and it wasn't resistance. It was really just, I am someone who does things differently. I am an in-person person. I like to connect with people in person versus online. And I started following the things. And I guess this is like the E, right? For me, is the experiences that I want to create. I wanted to create in-person experiences. And that's really how I built my business, is with the series of in-person experiences, which to a lot of strategists is like, that's the wrong way to build your online business. But that's how I built my business. And I'm so happy that I didn't listen to everyone and I followed the experiences that I really wanted to create, because that has led to creating a business that feels good and right for me and feels aligned. So C.O.R.E. is really something that this is about finding your own core, like who you are at the depth of your being. And then that applies to your personal and professional life, everything.
So I always tell people what I do is I help people create a life and business they love. And to your point, so many entrepreneurs created a life and business that they hate. That is a prison. And I'm so glad you said that, because I feel the same way, because I talk to all the strategists and everybody said, Will, you should do this. You should do Facebook Live from your business page. And then over here, we got this algorithm. And, that's not fun to me. It's not doing good and having fun, right? I get it. And this is why you have to be clear about you, right? I may be okay with $1 million business. You may not be okay with that. You may want a $2 million business. So for you to do all the algorithms and all that and keep up with what Facebook, like, I'm never mad at what Mark Zuckerberg does, right? You see how everybody, oh my God, they changed the algorithm. I'm never upset. I'm never mad at what Instagram does. I'm just going to post my picture. Whoever comes and sees my picture, that's who was meant to see my picture. Because I don't want you looking at my picture if I manipulated you to come and see my picture. And I get it, but Will, you got to amplify your voice. If they don't know you exist, they can't find your work, and that's fine. You know what? That's fine. Whoever is supposed to work with me, I have enough confidence and enough clarity in the universe that it's going to come to me. And if I was just telling this to a friend this morning, the difference between 10 mil and 15 mil. What, I miss a salmon? I don't know, but it's not a big deal for me. And that is so key for you to get to the experience. Like, when people come to me, they always say, okay, I want to do your program. Do you have books? Do you have, what is this? I said, I don't have any cookie cutter form. I'm going to talk with you. We're going to get on the dance floor and we're going to dance. I don't know what dance we're going to do. I don't know what music you like, but I want to find out what music you like. And that's, let's go back to clarity, right? And C.O.R.E. relationships. Like, when you get married or whatever, you're in a relationship, like, every guy thinks that, oh, okay, let me buy her some roses, let me get her a teddy bear, and let me get her some chocolates. What if she doesn't like roses?
Right.
What if she's allergic to chocolate? Right? What if she had a bad nightmare about teddy bears when she was little? You know what you're going to do. You got to get clear on who this person is, what your relationship is. And so I really hate that when people say it has to be like this, because it's never happened. It never happens like that, right? If you sit down and you look at the success that you have and the people that you've met, you wouldn't even wrote it the way it happened. You weren't even thinking like that. But because you're open to experiences and how you want to live life and how you want to play life, then that's when the magic really starts to happen.
Right. And like what you were describing with your business, I mean, the way in which you've built that and the way in which you structure your business and the way in which you live it is it's very you. It's the Dr. Will way. And when we find our core, when we connect to our core, we're going to do it our way. Like I'm doing it the Ruby way. And for our listeners, when you discover your core, uncover your core, then you're going to do it your way. And each way, there's not one right way to do things. The right way is really to do it aligned with your core.
So I'll give you another example. Let's think of this. Like, we all have our favorite magazine, especially when you're like individuals like us, type A individuals. And you do, this is not about dialing it down and not playing it big, but this is about playing it on your terms and how you're going to win and feel good about winning the way you win. And one of the things I tell my clients all the time is, take your favorite magazine. And everybody puts that on their goal sheet. I want to be on the cover of my favorite magazine. Well, let's really look at this. The issue is probably going to come out 12 times a year. Over a 10-year period, that's 120 opportunities that you have. There's 7.2 billion people on the planet that have an opportunity to be on the cover of this magazine, right? The likelihood of you probably getting on that magazine is probably very slim. And if you value yourself by that being success for you, then that's why so many people get depressed because, oh my God, a lot of the things that we put on our goal sheets and things like that are really anomaly type of things, right? And then when you look at a magazine, I mean, if Tony Robbins gets on it 3 times in that time period, that lowers your opportunity, right? If Elon Musk gets on it another 5 times, that really lowers your probability. And I remember talking to Darren Harden, who was the former publisher of Success Magazine. And I remember talking to him, and we were talking about the cover of the magazines. And he says, Will, people ask me all the time how they can get on the cover of Success Magazine. And this is what he told me. I'll never forget it, Ruby. He says, just do phenomenal stuff. Just do phenomenal stuff. That's how you land on the cover. And so for me, I went back and I said, you know what? Whether I get on the magazine cover or not, I'm just going to do phenomenal stuff. And that's how I try to live my life out. Do stuff that's fun for me, that I can do good and have fun. And whether I get on the magazine cover or not, it's fine. I tell people, all the awards you talked about in my bio, none of those was on my goal sheet. I didn't even know they existed. I'm just doing me. Right. And it's worked. And that's the recipe. And that's all I can share with people. Man, just do you. And at the end of the day, whether you get an award or not, you're happy with the work that you've done. And that's how I try to live my life from my core.
That's so powerful because it prevents us from creating these attachments to the outcomes. But it also, in a way, when we create these sort of super specific goals and we try and figure out the how, we limit ourselves with all the different possibilities. Like, I'm going to share this personal example. I had made a goal in 2012. I said, and I was living in Canada, and I said, I'm going to be living and working in LA at the end of 2013. So it was a year that I gave myself, and I started looking for jobs. And, I found this startup company that I wanted to apply to, started stalking them on social media, ended up winning a Twitter contest giveaway. And my now husband was the owner of the company, and he had emailed me and I had won. Now I thought I was going to, this is an in. Like, now I'm friends with the founder. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get my visa. I'm going to get in. But it worked out in a totally different way. We're now married. I don't work at the company, but I'm happier than I've ever been. It's the best relationship I've ever been in. And if I had really just limited myself to that one goal and not been open to the other opportunities, I mean, for me, LA was really the representation of I want to just feel happy and feel free. And I got that, but in a totally different way. So I just had to share that.
That is freaking amazing. And see, that experience, right? That experience right there, when you tell your kids of how you and dad met and the story, that's freaking amazing. You see what I mean? That's what you want to live for, those experiences. So when you get to the end of life, you have these amazing stories. When you guys are sitting on the couch and you're 70 years old and you're talking about how we got together, that's how you want it, right? These amazing stories. And so don't put a lid on life because, like I said earlier, it never happens how you write it out.
Right.
Yes, I'm all about having goals. I'm all about, like, I have this thing that, you have your super amazing goals, like getting on the cover of a magazine and meeting the press, all that kind of stuff. But then you have what I call controllable goals. And I think you should focus more so on controllable goals. I have a goal of every morning showing up being my best person. I can control that. See, I can't control if they put me on the cover of a magazine. I can't control if they give me an award. I can't control if 1 million people watch my podcast. But what I can control is waking up every day doing a podcast that I'm happy doing. I can control that. And whatever happens from that, whoever radar I get on, whoever wants to connect with me, that's all fine. But the goal I can control is, man, I want to serve my community with some great content. I can control that. I can win that award.
Yeah.
I can, live your best life award. And that's what I seek to do.
Yeah, I love that. I have control over meditating every day. I have control over showing up at my very best every day. I have control over who I choose to share my time with every day. So to our listeners, that is a really important thing that Dr. Will just pointed out. Focus on these controllable goals. And if you don't know what they are, identify what those are right now. Grab a pen and paper and identify what those are. So Dr. Will, we are actually reaching the end of our time on this episode, but how I like to end things off on each episode is I throw a love punch to my audience's face. And that's really just like a punchy mantra to help them remember, lock in what we just spoke about. So something short, sweet, to the point. I'm going to throw it back at you. What is your love punch for today's episode?
Find your core, commit to your core, live from your core, and live your absolute best life. That's the best advice I could give any of the listeners out there. Find your core, commit to your core, and live from your core. Do the work to find your core.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Will, for joining us on Love Punch today. Why don't you tell our listeners how they can stalk you online?
So real easy. I'm everywhere online at Dr. Will Speaks, DrWillSpeaks, everywhere on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, at Dr. Will Speaks. I would love to hear from you guys, love to interact. Share with me what your core is, what your clarity is. I would love to hear from you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll have that in the show notes. To our listeners, thanks so much for joining us on today's episode of Love Punch, where I'm challenging thought leaders, influencers, and entrepreneurs like you to make a lasting impact. If you love this episode between me and Dr. Will, please share it with a friend and don't forget to hit subscribe and drop a review. If you want to say hi to me, reach out on social media at I am Ruby. Dr. Will, thank you so much for being on the show today. And I will see everyone back here next week with a brand new episode of Love Punch.